an accidental conflict with Iran would be like saying, I purposely left this fragile glass at the edge of a table with, people walking by. And it was just an accident when it fell. I mean, there is an attempt to set up a scenario where, in the natural course of things, a conflict could escalate. And you've suggested that Donald Trump probably doesn't want this, and that seems to be the news reports. But it raises the question: what are the implications of Patrick Shanahan, who was until earlier this week the acting Secretary of Defense? He had yet to have a hearing, and my understanding was part of that was because the FBI was investigating potential corruption, corporate corruption involving perhaps some defense contractors. But ultimately, we're told that it was some domestic violence issues that took place about 10 years ago that basically called for the pulling of his nomination. How much of a coincidence is what's going on with Iran right now and Shanahan having to depart? How much of a coincidence is that in your mind?
I don't know. It's very speculative, but I can tell you this. So much of the escalation that has taken place have coincided with Mattis leaving. That's not to say that Mattis in any way, shape, or form was a softie on Iran. He certainly was not. But he was also not crazy enough to want to walk into a confrontation right away. And he was quite resistant to and capable of resisting the type of maneuvering that Bolton was doing, and he could check him. Shanahan clearly did not have that experience, that expertise, the gravitas that Mattis had. And as a result, I don't think it is a coincidence that as soon as Mattis left, we have seen almost unrestrained escalation vis-a-vis Iran, because Bolton has been trying to get a war with Iran for years, and this is his best shot yet to be able to actualize that dream.
What is your sense of where Shanahan was on the question of war? Because we kept hearing reports over the past couple of weeks that Donald Trump met with Pentagon officials and said, I don't want a war. And, in the past, I guess I'm just looking at Iraq, Donald Rumsfeld was out there. He was Secretary of Defense, and he was pushing for this war. We didn't see that with the Secretary of Defense. Obviously, you said Mattis, but we didn't see it with the acting. It's coming more from the State Department with Mike Pompeo. Was Shanahan, do you think, an obstacle to what Pompeo and Bolton are and were doing?
I think it's reasonable to expect that he probably wanted to be an obstacle, but he just didn't have the experience and the bureaucratic skill sets to be able to be the type of an obstacle that is needed right now. And as a result, Bolton has been quite effective in outmaneuvering him.
And so
him leaving, but then again, he's going to be replaced with another person who also is coming from that world, but actually does have a military background and arguably has more government experience as well, and as a result may have a bit more of a chance. But we don't know where he stands on these issues.
What is your sense in terms of how Iran is reacting to this? They have now said that they will now up their uranium enrichment, essentially saying the U.S. unilaterally ended this deal, or at least walked away from it. The Europeans have yet to step up. And so they're going to take the next step. Give me the perspective of what's going on within Iran.
Well, the Iranians are absolutely sick and tired of being the only country that actually is implementing the nuclear deal. Because as much as the Europeans are talking a good game and expressing how much they support the deal, they're not living up to the deal. They're not trading with Iran. They are much more respectful of Trump's sanctions, which they say they strongly disagree with, than they are with the nuclear deal. And that's obviously a big problem, because it's completely unrealistic for anyone to expect that the Iranians are going to continue to implement the deal while getting none of the benefits that they were promised. Now, the good thing is this: what they're doing is not good in any way, shape, or form, but it is reversible, meaning that, and they are very explicit about that as well, which is interesting. It essentially means that the things that they're doing right now are things that if the Europeans were to finally start implementing the deal, the Iranians can very quickly reverse some of these steps and be in complete compliance again within a couple of days, essentially, if not even sooner. And that's good because it means that there might be still some opportunity of salvaging this.
To what extent do you think the Iranians are also making an overture to Trump in this way? I mean, it seems to me, right, that Trump has been signaling that he would make essentially the same deal that Obama did, but he just wants to call it the Trump deal, and it's, in quotes, a better deal. And that the Iranians maybe are giving themselves some room in which they can negotiate, like they can return, like they're actually able to now go into a deal, negotiation with Trump and say, this is what we'll give up. We'll return back to where we were. And in some ways, everybody can perform this kabuki theater as if they have renegotiated something, but they basically got back to where they were on day one. How much of that is possible?
If the Iranians end up negotiating with Trump, I think that's exactly how it's going to be playing out. They're not going to come to the table with no leverage. They're going to be doing everything they can to make sure that they build up their leverage and come to the table with something that they can trade away. Right now, they don't have much because they've been abiding by the deal, which actually shows you how good the deal was. The deal was so good that it took away so much of Iran's nuclear leverage vis-a-vis the United States. But it's still, not a good situation. It's right. Very risky because there's no guarantee that it will end up working. I mean, look at what's going on with North Korea. Yes, they came to the table. They had all of these different photo ops and summits, but there's no deal. And the North Koreans are quickly going back to a lot of the things that they were doing before, not surprisingly.
To what extent do you think that these sabotages of these tankers, is it, in your mind, is it settled that Iran was involved in this? Is it possible that, look, we've had the Gulf of Tonkin, we've had numerous examples in the past we had the babies in the incubators in Kuwait. We have numerous examples in the past of lies, of false flag instances. What do you think it's possible? What are the different scenarios as to what happened this week?
There's plenty of different scenarios, and almost all of them are extremely speculative because, there's no hard evidence. The videos that have been floating around actually don't show anything of particular value. It shows that some boat may have been there. They may have taken something off the boat, but that doesn't mean that they are the same people that that put it on. Imagine if the Iranians actually, let's assume that they're not the ones behind it. They're there. They're helping some of the sailors get off the boat. We know that for a fact. And they see that there is an unexploded mine there. Isn't it the responsible thing to actually remove it and remove the risk of it exploding and creating a tremendous amount of damage, including to their own people that are there? It seems to me that if the U.S. had been there and saw an unexploded mine, it too would have removed it. But that doesn't mean in any way, shape, or form that the U.S. put it there.